I'm Rob Zarnecki, and I'm a Principal Product Manager for AWS Outposts. I'm excited to be here today with Thorsten Hompf and Michal Shikovsky from Tipico to talk about how they and you can use Outposts to extend AWS on-premises for a truly consistent hybrid experience as part of our celebration of 15 years of Amazon EC2. Just a quick overview of where we'll go today. I want to spend a little bit of time reminding everybody what AWS Outposts are, a quick update on what's new with Outposts, before handing it off to Thorsten and Michal to actually talk through how Tipico has architected their workloads on AWS Outposts to give them a bit more flexibility as they build their applications and allow them to focus on the differentiated elements of their business. And we'll come back with a quick demo to show you just how easy it is to spin up EC2 instances and even an RDS database on your Outpost, both running services locally and interacting with services that are back in the home region, if that's what you need to do. And we'll leave some time at the end for questions as well. So what is AWS Outposts? Outposts enable you to develop your applications once and deploy both in the AWS cloud and on premises without the need to rewrite your applications. Your developers can use the same APIs, tools, and services that they're used to with AWS. And you have the same hardware and software infrastructure with those consistent set of AWS services and tools across your AWS cloud and on-premises environments that allow you to build and run modern cloud-native applications quite literally anywhere in the world. Now, Outposts are fully managed and supported by AWS, and we automatically handle updates and maintain these servers and the service just the same way we do with our services in the region. You don't have to worry about your infrastructure. You can just focus on the applications you build on top. You use the same AWS console to view and manage your resources, whether they're in the cloud or on premises on your Outpost. And it's the same AWS CLI and SDKs that your teams have likely grown accustomed to. It's a really powerful simplifier as you manage your applications. There are really three main reasons that require applications to stay on-premise or out of an AWS region or availability zone. First, the latency-sensitive workloads. Some of these business-critical applications are just so sensitive to latency, and particularly variability in latency, that they need to be on-premise. Maybe because they need to support equipment or processes that are very latency-sensitive, or maybe they need to provide a better end-user experience, such as mobile video gaming. The second is local data processing, and that might be the need to have some of this ever-increasing set of data that's generated processed locally without the need to move it back to the region and then do the processing and return the data. Autonomous vehicles are a great example, or any other large volume data workload. Some of that data does ultimately need to move to the cloud. Some of it just needs to be processed very quickly, and the Outpost lets you do it right there with a familiar set of tools and services. And the third are applications with data residency requirements. There's an ever-increasing set of regulations requiring, for example, financial services workloads, payment transactions, personally identifiable information associated with healthcare and life science workloads that remain in a certain geographical jurisdiction, a metro area, or even in a specific facility. And this is exactly what Tipico's workloads are subject to in many respects. And the combination of those three all work very well on Outposts. So the nice thing about Outposts are they're supported in 60 countries today, and we continue to work to bring more and more countries online so that customers have the flexibility to put the Outpost exactly where they need their workloads to run. Now the Outpost, in addition to the country where it physically sits, it needs to be connected back to an AWS home region. And Outposts are supported in 23 regions today, all of our commercial and GovCloud regions. And we will support all the newly announced AWS regions at launch when they become available. So the easy way to think about this is your Outpost can be landed anywhere and connected home to any AWS region. And as we continue to bring more and more regions online, that compatibility will extend to the new regions as well. Now that you have the Outpost, it's the services that run on the Outpost that really complete the rest of the story. And today we have 10 AWS services that run locally on Outposts, And we continue to invest in launching new features and services for each of those. For example, our core compute services, EC2, ECS, our container service, and EKS, our managed Kubernetes service, are all available locally on Outposts. We offer our Elastic Block Store for instant storage. We also offer local S3 for object storage using the same S3 APIs that customers are familiar with using in the region. For monitoring, we have metrics to monitor your outposts, both the connectivity to the region as well as health and capacity metrics. And we've also launched support for Resource Access Manager so that you can share your outpost subnets, your VPC, your local gateway, even your EC2 instances and your EBS volumes with your distributed teams. We focused on investments in compliance as well. Outposts are HIPAA eligible, PCI and ISO compliant, and we continue to work on other certifications that are important to our customers. We're also investing in the networking experience on Outposts to make sure that the two new network constructs that we introduced with Outposts, one called the local gateway, which is your connection between the outpost and your local network, and another called the service link, which is the outpost connection back to the home region, continue to give the customers the support they need and allow customers to either assign a customer-owned IP or a COIP to an instance for local connectivity, or to use direct VPC routing and directly connect to your VPC private IP of an instance to communicate with your on-premises network. We also are focused on the EC2 feature parity to make sure that compute experience is the same. And we now support capacity reservations for EC2 instances on Outposts, as well as placement groups with both spread, cluster, and partition placement strategies. We have a managed database with RDS. We have Elasticache for your higher performance database needs, our application load balancer, and Cloud Indoor for assistance with migration and disaster recovery. S3 was one of our big late 2020 launches, and customers continue to remain excited about what they can do with local object storage on their Outpost. It's particularly important for those customers with data residency needs, and we've recently announced some new sizes for S3. So customers can provision as little as 26 terabytes of S3 on their Outpost, up to 380 terabytes of local object storage on the Outpost. And of course, for that data that doesn't need to be local, S3 and region is there and infinitely scalable as always. We've also recently announced support for connection to your S3 buckets and objects on the Outpost from a local machine on your local network that may be outside of your VPC. So rather than needing to spin up an EC2 instance that acts as a proxy, you can make that direct connection from other devices that are on your local network and access S3. Spend a minute talking about RDS on Outposts as well. RDS allows you to run MySQL, Postgres, and Microsoft SQL engines on the Outposts. It's a fully managed database on premises for those database workloads that need to be where the Outpost is located. Again, using the same AWS Console, APIs, and CLI. It provides a low-cost, high availability hybrid deployment with a disaster recovery back to the AWS region and seamless orchestration there. And you can also burst replicas to RDS in the cloud and archive with S3 in the region. Now, in addition to these services, there are a whole host of other AWS services that can run from the region with the Outpost. And that could be tools like CodeBuild or CodeDeploy, Cloud9, as well as Lambda, CloudWatch, and CloudTrail as well. But we also have a whole complement of partners to help customers maintain a similar consistency that we offer between our AWS services in the region and on Outpost, and offer that consistency extending to existing infrastructure that our customers are running. So we're really pleased to have 65 solutions from 58 Outpost service-ready partners. And these are ISVs offering a whole host of different services that have been tested on an Outpost. They've worked with our team. They've undergone an architectural review. We've partnered with them on their documentation. And most importantly, the AWS team will help support customers running those applications just like they're our own. It's a fantastic value that our partners are providing to customers here. And we're really excited to see what customers and partners continue to do with Outposts. In addition to our technology partners, they're part of the Service Ready program, we've also been working with our APN consulting partners who have deep experience in helping businesses migrate their applications to AWS. There are more than 56 partners now with proven infrastructure, software, and industry-specific solutions that help customers build and run on-premise applications on Outposts. These include discovery, planning, migration, and operations. And you can choose these partners for both strategy and technology advisory services to help you migrate and operate your workloads on Outposts. Partners like Booz Allen Hamilton and Worldwide Technology, among others, have been working closely with Outpost customers for more than a year now and deeply understand how to architect the service, architect an application on the Outpost service in a way that works well with your business needs. And finally, one of the most exciting bits of news that we pre-announced at reInvent last year, and that is the new Outpost 1U and 2U form factors. Now, through all the excitement that we've heard about Outposts, we have seen this message emerge, this need that even with a small outpost, a full 42U rack that comes with these outposts may be too much for some use cases. Not all locations have the ability to host a full-size 42U rack. And some customers don't need the entire set of compute that you could fit in that rack. Some customers only need 1 or 2 or 4 servers. So we've designed Outpost servers. There will be a 1U variant based on our Graviton processor and a 2U variant with an Intel-based processor. And these are ideal for enterprise customers who need compute across hundreds or thousands of connected edge locations. These customers want to bring AWS services, infrastructure, and operating model to locations with limited space where a full-size Outpost rack either doesn't fit or is unnecessary. Oftentimes, managing this infrastructure can be incredibly difficult and time-sensitive to procure, integrate, and maintain. And the more locations customers have, the more complex this task takes. Deployment can take months or years, and security patching is constantly out of date. So we believe these rack-mountable 1U or 2U Outpost servers that can be installed in a location, perhaps next to existing gear that customers have, and allow them to natively run AWS compute and container services locally, really provides a powerful advantage. We're excited to be building these and make them available. So with that, I want to pass it over to Thorsten to talk a little bit about how Tipico has built around AWS Outposts.
Thank you very much. And yeah, thanks for having us. So yeah, Tipico, let me start with our challenge. So where we came from, why did we choose Outpost? Yeah. So let me first explain the situation we were in. So there was a decision from the business side that we want to go to the US market, that we want to expand there. And with that decision, we knew also that there are some regulations. We need to store data on premise in a data center because the data needs to remain in the state where we are licensed. So there was immediately a challenge for us in our mind. Okay, we are in the cloud. So how can we store the data in the States? And then on reInvent, AWS was so kind and presented a solution for us. It was Outpost actually. Yeah. So Outpost gave us a lot of advantages we were looking for. Yeah. We could reuse our infrastructure as a code. We were coding 100,000 of lines in end of 2017, 2018, during to our transition from actually the data center to the cloud, right? So this is what we did, and we were able to reuse as well all of this code. We actually were coding for our public transition, yeah, because Outpost is a good fit in these terms because you can reuse the AWS APIs. Yeah, you have still the strong support also of your AWS guys, right? Solutions architects, the support engineers, all the people that are close to you. They also try to help to achieve the goal, right? So this is also how we wanted to solve these challenges. So the solution was really then, okay, talking to AWS, getting to know, okay, what does Outpost brings for us? What do we need to consider? What can we do there? And as I said already, so it was really, we were able to reuse almost every little piece of our infrastructure as a code. There was no big refactoring needed. Yeah, of course, we had to change to the Outpost as a provider. We had to learn a bit the networking, how it is with the subnets, and on the Outpost, how the connection could be to the region. But of course, these are learning curves. Yeah, you have them at the beginning, but it's much easier to have a learning curve on something you know already in principle, like AWS, then you switch to the well-known, already existing private cloud solutions, right? Because there you definitely need to start from scratch. So this was definitely something that helped us a lot. And so it was really an easy decision at the end to choose AWS as a partner. Yeah, because also the benefits that came with, we saw right now as well. We were able to enter the US market 5 to 10 times faster because, yes, first of all, you need, on one hand, you need the product. Yeah, so it needs to be developed, it needs to be compliant, but also on the other hand, the infrastructure needs to be ready as well, right? So you need to think about it. Okay, if you do everything on bare metal, the whole procurement, the whole sizing, everything is really, really difficult, and the overhead, then you need to develop everything. If you don't have it in code on bare metal, you need to do everything manually. So this Outpost move was enabling us to, and allowing us to enter the US market 5 to 10 times faster. This is at least what we turned out when we did a retrospective about it. Yeah. On the other hand, as well, the whole cloud journey reduced our latencies as well. Yeah, with AWS we were able to boost up our, for example, here for the process time for a bed slip. Yeah, this is just an example. I can give hundreds of examples where we see latency improvements in our application. Yeah, and then as well, what is really underestimated most of the time, you hire new people, you enter a new market, so you also need to onboard them. Yeah, how was it in the past? Tons of documentations, read this one, read this one, read this one. Now with AWS and our infrastructure as a code approach, you just give them the code. They know the code, they can read it, and it's really easy for them already to participate in a really short time. Yeah, we start with small tasks and then we go ahead with bigger tasks. So this is really something AWS is enabling a lot with Outpost here as well. And the most important piece here, AWS is really fulfilling almost every regulatory need. Yeah, and also I just want to say, if AWS does not do it, they will make sure they will. Yeah, so we saw it as well. We were, I'm quite proud to say the first iGaming company that went with Outpost, and it was also some unknowns for AWS. And honestly, we solved them together, and this is also why I'm really happy with the move to AWS and to Outpost. Yeah, with all the upsides here, at least there are no downsides, but definitely something worth to mention for people that want to choose Outpost and already living in the cloud world, where you don't need to think about power consumption in your data center, cooling, and whatever. Honestly, I need to disappoint you a bit at least. You need to think about it if you choose Outpost, because you need to consider that Outpost is still again running in a data center, on bare metal. It feels for you as an user like the cloud. There is no difference, but in fact there is a rack, as we learned right now, a 42U rack in a data center. So what you need to do, you need to consider and to find a good data center partner, who fulfills all the requirements that AWS is asking for. We're talking about the cooling, we're talking about the power, the weight even, such a 42U rack, I don't need to tell you, it's just really heavy, So, and also connectivity is quite important, So this is definitely something you need to consider, you need to find the right data center partner. Then also one small thing we had to learn as well, but everything can be solved. You need to have your own network equipment. I'm pretty sure AWS is working on it to get rid of this, but for now, you need to have at least a small network equipment that is able to terminate the BGP connection. To establish the connection to the region from the Outpost. So this is a little overhead you have at the moment to establish this connection and to use Outpost. So this is something we had to learn again. Because we honestly wanted to get rid of it when we moved to the cloud, but regulatory needs and the business required it, so it's fine for us. So you need to keep in mind there are 3 sites involved if you use Outpost. So it's AWS as the Outpost owner, right? They offer it for you, they maintain it, monitor it, but also the data center. Yeah, so the data center is hosting it actually. So they will provide the connectivity to the outpost. They will provide the power, um, and they make sure that outpost is just running. And then you as a customer, yeah, you as a customer, you also need to think about a bit more again, like in the old times. If you have something on premise, in the public cloud, you don't need to think about the real sizing. Yes, you want to run efficient. Yeah, this is what cloud is for, right? Run efficient. But here, if you talk about outposts, you need to think about sizing, yeah, because the outposts will come completely ready, so they will ship the whole rack into your data center. Yeah, it's really a plug and play approach. So what you need to do there, you need to think about, okay, what about compute? Do how much instances do I need, right? Are they compute heavy? Are they memory heavy? What instance family do I want to choose? Yeah, how much storage do I need? Yeah, do I need 10, 10 terabyte of EBS volume? Yeah, do I need 50, whatever, right? So all this needs to be in consideration, yeah, before you can order an outpost. Yeah, also with the new feature Rob just described, the S3, yeah, it also gives you a lot of new options, yeah, and this all you need to consider, or you should at least consider before you order outpost. If you have questions about it, AWS is also able to help with the correct sizing for the outpost, yeah. So this is also something why we are also happy that we have chosen outpost, because of the strong support by AWS. Yeah, so we are definitely quite happy with that move. And now my colleague Mihao can tell you a bit, or can show you a bit also on our diagrams, how the architecture looked like before we were using Outpost. So that means we're using a well-known private cloud provider, and then moved over to Outpost. Yeah, it shows you that it made it a lot of easier. Mihao, explain it.
Hello, guys. So we entered the US market just a little bit earlier before the Outpost was available, and this whole trip there taught me specifically and a few of my engineers that we get used to good things pretty fast. And suddenly we had to take a step backwards a little bit, and instead of just using cloud, we had to come back to old days a little bit. We made it work. It was everything was working fine. However, it just added up a little bit of more work. Um, we used Kubernetes. The system is Kubernetes based. We used Kubernetes from OpenStack, and then we had to manage also additional infrastructure pieces like Elasticsearch, Elasticache, and Kafka. On top of it, to sit the application, everything is in microservices. When we decided to switch to Outpost, we found out that suddenly we can reuse all the newest achievements from AWS. For me, during this move, the biggest win was transition to EKS. Now I didn't have to manage the Kubernetes engine anymore, because I was able to use it as a managed service. The next thing that we were able to use is to reuse the Elasticache. Here is my small. I would like ask AWS for a favor and deliver me in the nearest future MSK and also Elasticsearch, because these are two services that we are using also, and we still need to manage them by ourselves or just on EC2 instances, and they would greatly help us. For example, our staging environment is working directly, completely in a cloud to not waste space on Outpost, and over there we use all the managed services. So we also on our day-to-day work see the difference in an effort in maintenance and overhead. What I also like about it is that the EKS also brought us ALB ingress, and since ALB is directly supported on Outpost, this is also a great help, because building CI/CD pipelines for microservices is now much easier, and we can basically deploy a microservice with every infra piece that it requires with one button click and a lot of code executed in the background. Also, for someone who just is an engineer in AWS, what I really like is Torsten already said something about the good support. I would rather what I like is the unified support. Suddenly, I have just one place where I go for help. I can open a case in AWS, and it covers every infrastructure piece I have. So for me, this is also a game changer, because I don't have to basically deal with multiple entities passing information from one to another, being just a messenger. I have one place to go for this. I think that Torsten already mentioned the code reuse, and here, for example, there are multiple ways of writing infrastructure code. We some time ago chose have chosen HashiCorp Terraform. They also support OpenStack provider. However, such code is not completely portable. With using just AWS provider, we were able to reuse the code. I would estimate it up to 99%, just because some little minor tweaks had to be done to suddenly enable our code to work on Outpost. Another benefit is simplification of access control. We got pretty used to excellent services like IAM, and also really simple network security management with security groups, where we can directly reuse security groups between Outpost and the region, and we, instead of using IP address ranges, we can directly reference one security group to another, which brings us more security and also very easy to audit our security requirements.
Awesome. Thanks, Michal. Really exciting to hear what your team has done with Outposts, and I do think we're just getting started, both with Tipico and with our broader set of customers in general. I do want to take a minute here to just let folks see how easy it is to get started with an Outpost. So we've got a little demo here to just take you through the Outpost console, how to order an Outpost, how to launch an instance from an Outpost, actually how to go ahead and launch an Rds database, and show you how familiar the feel is. It's really so very similar to working with AWS resources today, and we think that that's a really important piece of the story here. So there's nothing new for you and your teams to learn.
So we'll head on over to the AWS console, and as you can see, the Outpost console appears in my recently visited services. You can also navigate to it in the All Services section, and Outpost will appear under the Compute header, or you can search for it in the search bar at the top. So a quick search, and we're off to the Outpost console. Because this account that I'm using has a couple of Outposts already associated with it, it directs you to the Outpost chooser. But if you didn't have Outposts associated with this account, you'd end up at the Outpost console home screen, which has some really helpful educational information, some pricing, and links to other Outpost resources available for you. Now, if you wanted to order a new Outpost, this is where you would get started by placing your order. And you can quickly navigate here and see our publicly available configurations. Now, this will also include any custom configurations that you work with our team to create specifically for your use case. So if you land here, please don't be worried if you can't find exactly the right configuration. You can reach out to our AWS Outpost team, and we can help build a custom configuration that meets your needs. You go ahead and select whichever Outpost configuration works for you. I'll just choose this one at the bottom here that has two C524 extra larges. And it's worth mentioning that you can also see the storage that's supported here, the network uplink options, and as well as the power draw and the weight. And that's really important because with Outposts, the customers will be providing the data center or co-location space, and you need to make sure that your Outpost will fall within the available power that your data center offers and be inside of the weight limit that the floor or the facility can support. Also important to think about elevators and transit path, not just the end state where the Outpost lands here. So we'll go ahead and select this one. Worth mentioning that you can select multiple configurations and they can turn into a multiple rack Outpost, or in this case, where it's a 7.1 kVA power draw, if you had a rack position that could support up to 15 kVA, you could actually include two of these configurations in a single Outpost rack. So we'll go ahead to the next step. And this is where you can choose to either add these configurations to an existing logical outpost or create a new outpost for this configuration. So if you create a new outpost, this is where you'll have a chance to name it, describe it, choose the availability zone in the home region that it'll be connected back to, select your direct connection or not, and either select or create the site, which is the physical location the outpost will be associated with. Now, since we have some outposts here, let's hop back to the Outpost console home screen and go back to that outpost chooser that we saw. Now, when you need to launch an instance on an outpost, there are 3 ways to do it. Of course, you can use the EC2 console or the EC2 command line interface to launch that instance, because the outpost is just a specific subnet associated with the home AZ. Or you can go to the Outpost console, you can select this outpost here, and under the Actions option, you'll have a choice to launch an instance. Now you'll notice this just pulls up the EC2 instance launch wizard just the same way the EC2 console would. So now you've been redirected back into the traditional instance launch console workflow. So for this one, we'll choose an Amazon Linux 2 AMI. When you move to the Choose Instance Type screen, unlike the region where you'll see all the instances available, this will only show instances supported by this specific outpost. And you'll see a little reminder right here to tell you that. Now this is an outpost in our lab. It's configured with a number of different instance types and EBS, but it does not have S3 enabled. So we'll choose an M5 large here just to get started. And we'll move on to the Configure Instance Details page. Again, this is exactly the same view that you'll see in the region. You'll need to create or associate an existing VPC and subnet. We'll use the defaults here. And you can go on and add your instance to a placement group or include a capacity reservation, both of which are now supported on Outposts. You can go ahead and specify the rest of these details here, just the same way that you would for an instance launch in the region. Now it's important to mention that from this point, you can hop directly to the review and launch screen and go ahead and launch your instance without the need to click through anything else here. Or you could continue navigating through the instance launch wizard and specify your EBS storage details. EBS GP2 volume types are supported. You can specify how much storage you'd like to associate with this instance. I'll use the default configurations here. You can go ahead to any tag settings that you need for organization, management, anything that you use tags for can be associated with your instance just the same way you would with an EC2 instance in region. And you can configure your security groups. And while I'll get a warning here, SSH to 0.0.0.0 is fine for the purpose of this example because we'll terminate the instance as soon as we're finished. And again, you land at the review instance launch screen. This is where you could hop to directly from the configure instances screen once the required details are there, and you can expand any of these for a little bit more detail on the instance you're about to launch. So we'll go ahead and click launch. As with an EC2 launch in region, you'll be prompted to select an existing key pair or create a new one. I'll show you the chooser right here. I will choose an existing, and we'll go down and select one of my existing keys, check the acknowledgement box, and move right on to our instance launch. And there we go. Our instances are now launching, and we can click on this right here and hop directly to the EC2 console, and you can see this instance in a pending state. We just give it a second. It usually doesn't take too much time. And there we go. Our instance is running, and you can see the status checks working. This will work just the same way they do on an instance in the region, and these status checks should show some actual details within a minute or two. Now, if we select this, again, same experiences in the region. One helpful bit that I like to point out, under the networking tab, every instance now shows an outpost ID field, and for instances running on outposts, you'll actually have your outpost identifier keyed in right here, so you can understand and confirm that this instance is in fact running on your outpost, in addition to confirming by the subnet. And if you were running multiple outposts in the same region on the same account, you could actually identify which specific outpost your instance is running on. From here, you can go ahead and use this instance just like you would with any other instance. You can SSH into the instance, you can run your applications, connect with it however you see fit. You can also use this both with services locally on the outpost and services running back in the home region. So a great example is RDS. We now support an Rds Managed Database that runs locally on your outpost. And if I head on over to the Rds Console, I can show you what it looks like to create and manage one of those databases. So you go down to the Create Database option just on the Rds Console main dashboard. And as this dashboard loads, you'll see that you have an option to create your database in the cloud in one of our regions or on premises. So we'll select on premises and RDS on outposts. And then you can go ahead here and again, just like you're creating an RDS database in the region, select your details, your VPC, your security group, your subnets, and you select your database engine type. Now, RDS on Outpost supports MySQL, Postgres, and Microsoft SQL Server. For the purposes of this exercise, we'll choose the MySQL engine and Community Edition, and then you can go ahead and select the version that you would like to run. So I'll choose 8.0.21. A few additional settings. I'll have RDS auto-generate a password for us here. And this is where you can select your instance that the database will run on. So M5s are available on this outpost for your RDS instance. And I'll choose an M5 large because we don't need a huge instance here. It's just a demonstration. Your storage type, allocated storage, and all the rest of the details. And you go ahead from here and create the database. And with that, you'll see database 2 is the one we just created. It's running on the outpost, and it is in a creating status. It'll take a few minutes for RDS to actually build the database. But understanding that that was the case, I went ahead and created one before this demo. So you can see database 1, which is still running on our outpost, is now available. And since it's just a demonstration, the activity is pretty low and the CPU is underutilized at the moment. Now, again, I mentioned that we don't have support for S3 active on this particular outpost. And because of that, we can actually use S3 in the region for any workloads running on the outpost. And a great example here is RDS can take snapshots of your database. And those RDS snapshots are actually saved to S3. So if you went ahead and selected the existing database here and chose to take a snapshot, this snapshot will be saved back to S3 in the region. So I'll just go ahead and call this test snapshot, spell it correctly, and go ahead and take it. You know what, I've used that name already, so I'll call it test snapshot 1 and go ahead and take the snapshot. And here you go. You can see that I've taken a few of these that are appearing as available, and we have the new one that we just created, which is creating. And this is a really natural way of the RDS service handling the available resources and putting the data where you as the customer would like it to be. And the same holds true for any other applications on AWS. You can orchestrate your CI/CD workflows or manage your applications across your entire AWS fleet, including instances running in the region, instances running on your outpost in your own data center or your co-location facility. And they're all available and accessible through the AWS console and CLI, just like our services in the region. So we'll head back to the Outpost console, to the home screen, and that is how you use your AWS Outposts to handle your workloads both on premises and work with services that are running back in the region.
And it's just that easy to work with AWS Outposts through the AWS console. Thorsten, Michal, thank you so much for your support and your partnership, both over the last year and a half or so and also today on this presentation. We'll certainly keep some time today to take your questions in the chat and do our best to get you some answers in real time there and follow up with anything that we're unable to answer today. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks for being an EC2 user or interested in EC2. It's been an awesome 15-year journey, and we're really excited to see what we have to look forward to in the next 15.